Right, cool. So I want to show you how I made this scene using Unreal Engine and DaVinci Resolve. I used to make a lot of film and VFX stuff as a kid because I just love taking something from the imagination and bringing it to life in cinema. It's just always felt like magic to me. And I really wanted to show you all the stuff I learned making this project because I really want to demonstrate how even an amateur like me can make some pretty cool stuff. And I hope to inspire other would-be VFX artists out there to give it a go because honestly, I have so much fun making these. So let's get into it. Now, I really wanted to make a scene from a piece of lore and world building that I've been writing on. I love fantasy, I love science fiction. I'm very inspired by films and TV shows that I grew up with, like Stargate SG-1,
Carter, I can see my house.
Farscape, Battlestar Galactica, and of course, hello there. So in this scene I came up with, we follow this organization that are on a mission to recover ancient arcane technologies and reverse engineer these in order to build their empire. I came up with a scene that's quite simple because I really wanted to just learn and practice some basics. So the next thing we're going to look at is the Previs. Pre-visualization is a basic animation using placeholder assets to create an early preview of what the shots in your scene are going to look like. So I boot up Unreal Engine, I create an outline of my scene environment using some basic geometry and some placeholder characters. Prevising is a great way to storyboard your shots, figure out your camera angles, and get an idea of how your actors and props are all going to interact within the scene environment. I also think it's a great way just to see how your ideas translate to a three-dimensional medium. I really enjoyed the prevising process. It kind of reminds me of playing with Legos as a kid, not as a grown-up. I know prevising has become a much more crucial part of the pipeline on modern day film productions. I recently attended an Unreal Engine event where some guys in the industry talked about how they used Unreal Engine to previs for the Netflix series Helicopter Heist. It's pretty cool stuff. For me, one of the most important parts of the previs is figuring out my lighting setup. So I need to figure out where my light sources will be coming from so that I can emulate this setup during my live action shooting. Consistent lighting is one of the most important parts of creating a seamless blend between live action elements and a digital environment. Now that I completed my previs masterpiece, it was time to move on to shooting. So before I started shooting, I had to make some costumes. I do not know how to make costumes. So I went on Temu and I basically just started bashing stuff together. I did have a pretty clear idea of what I wanted these characters to look like. I had designed some concept arts a while back that I was going to use as my main point of reference. Now, most of the stuff that I ordered are basically motorcycle gear. There were like knee pads, arm pads, this motorcycle armor that kind of looks like futuristic ballistics armor, and of course, trench coat. I don't know what it is, but they're just so damn cool. But come on, this is badass. This is awesome, right? Anyway. I also got this really cool cyberpunk mask. I got two of them. So one of them I cut out the middle piece mouth section for the retracted version of the mask. I wanted to do this to create the assembling effect. Luckily it stuck together and didn't fall apart. After making a few adjustments and doing a few costume fittings, I finally got geared up and set everything up for shooting. Of course, I hired my cat Siri as the director, and I think she did a fantastic job because she's perfect and she can do nothing wrong. And after a day of filming, I had all my shots and I started ingesting these into DaVinci Resolve. I picked out my favorite shots and overlaid these onto the previs to make sure that they were a good fit for the composite. After selecting the text I want to use, I begin the process of creating my alpha plates, meaning footage with a transparent background. I use a couple of different tools in DaVinci Resolve. There's the 3D keyer, which you can apply by painting the color you want to remove with the droplet tool in the inspector. There's the magic mask, which comes with the studio version of DaVinci Resolve. Unlike the keyer, it's not color-based, but it works by tracking subjects. You paint the subject you want to mask, and there's also a subtractive droplet for elements you want to exclude. Finally, there's your old school polygon mask, which is included in the free version of DaVinci Resolve. It's great if you need to mask something specific that you can't really do with the other tools. Case in point, I really wanted to do this mouthpiece rebreather folding on. It would be pretty cool to do this in 3D, but in this case I opted for masking out elements of my live action plates and animating those in DaVinci Resolve. After a bit of tinkering, I got some solid motion and added some motion blur to really sell the effect. I honestly had no idea if this was gonna work. I kinda just winged it, but I think it ended up looking pretty cool. Once I've got my masks ready, I export these as PNG sequences from DaVinci Resolve and import them into Unreal Engine as an image sequence. I apply the material from my image sequence to a plane mesh and add the media in my level sequencer. Now I'm able to composite my live action plates directly in Unreal Engine. What's cool about this is that Unreal Engine will apply lighting from the environment onto the plate. It's not perfect, but it does create consistency between the colors, and this makes grading so much easier. I finished building my scene environment in Unreal Engine by adding the props. These rocks, cliffs, adjusting the lighting, adding a bit of haze and smoke effects, and of course these holograms. I prefer adding final touches after adding my plates, just to make sure everything fits together. One detail I really wanted to add to the scene was to make the banners flutter a bit in the wind. To do this, I create a rectangle and add lots of polygons in order to add fluid range of motion to the fabric. This is because movement occurs along the edges between each polygon, so the more polygons, the more wiggly wiggle. Then I add my banner design from Photoshop and use it as my material base color, adjust the UVs, and convert the static mesh to a skeletal mesh. I open up the skeletal mesh and use the cloth paintbrush to paint the polygons I want to be affected by the wind physics. I add a wind actor to the scene and I'm good to go. Yeet! Now that I've finished my composites in Unreal Engine, I render my scenes and pop them back into DaVinci Resolve. Here I edit them together and overlay some color grading and additional effects, such as the glowing green eyes. Another thing I had to add was this holographic panel that the character interfaces with. I didn't really have a tutorial for this. I kind of just winged it. Again, I'm just glad it worked. I started off by creating these basic UI graphics in Photoshop. I made sure to use some frames of my alpha plates when hitting the buttons for positioning reference. And then I popped them into DaVinci Resolve and used the DVE effect in Fusion, which allows me to tilt the panel on a 3D angle to a fitting perspective. As a detail, I added some glowing effects to the plate as well. I cut out the buttons that the character interfaces with and overlaid them on top with a white color generator, and then keyframed them to match the movement. I finally mashed together my renders, VFX, color grades, and that's pretty much it. I added some sound effects and some ambiances from a sound pack I used. I'm gonna link the sound pack in the description below. I'm also gonna link some tutorials that have been really helpful for me to learn Unreal Engine. This is the first time I've made a video like this, so I hope it was entertaining, at least. Thanks for watching. Bye.